Greetings, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Spliced In Later, not dropping to you on the regular Tuesday, but a day earlier for some unexpected content, and not content that was even planned. I know last week I said that I was going to talk about Doctor Who this week, but I said that when I hadn't planned on seeing any movies over the weekend, and surprisingly, I've seen two, and I think it's good to talk about them, because as recent episodes have shown, there have not been particularly many satisfactory films that I've wanted to recommend to people. This film that we're talking about today and tomorrow's one are highly recommended. So that's a nice change. Let's do that. Sorry, Doctor Who, you'll just have to wait till next week. I don't think I'll see a movie between now and then. You never know. But it will come someday or another. Today, we are doing an unscheduled episode because we will also be dropping a movie review tomorrow. So after listening to today's ones, be sure to listen in somewhere around 24 hours from now, where I'll be dropping another back-to-back episode of movie reviews of movies that are in the cinemas, that are ready and waiting for you to see. They've been out for a bit over the weekend, basically. So if you have already seen them, feel free to comment and let us know what you thought of them. If you didn't know they were even coming out, like I didn't know until I saw trailers for both of these movies in front of Everything Everywhere All at Once, then it's a nice, pleasant surprise. Something that's not Marvel. It's a nice change to talk about here on this podcast. Today, is the first movie we're talking about is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, starring Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal. A truly fun, self-aware, silly, entertaining movie that I enjoyed very much. I did not know this movie was coming. I had heard rumblings about something that Nicolas Cage was working on. But here's the thing, unpacking here is that knowing a Nicolas Cage movie is coming these days can mean one of two things. Either it's an unexpected hit that you didn't know about until word of mouth reaches you, such as the movie Pig, which came out last year, or it's one of those Redbox movies that just get pumped out like 7 a year. Not just Nicolas Cage, but Bruce Willis, John Cusack, Dolph Lundgren. They're those sorts of movies where they've got low budget, they're not particularly well made, and a lot of effort has been put into them. But the trick of the star power is what will trick people to go, oh, I know that actor, he's pretty good, I'll check out that movie. And then the movie itself is disappointing, in most cases. And Nicolas Cage is one of those people who's in about 4 or 5 of them a year. And unless they're cult classic-y style silly, they're not particularly successful. But this is a mainstream, I wouldn't say big budget, but moderate budget film designed to be released in theaters, and something that capitalizes on Nicolas Cage's reputation, not only as a great actor, but a legend in the Hollywood film industry, depending on how you want to look at him, whether he's a legend for all the cool movies that he starred in the 90s, or his personality and his resulting memes that have come from it, or just supporting him as an individual. I don't think this review will go very long, because it's not a particularly long movie, and there's not too much to unpack. It's not something where you have to analyze every little detail, but it's definitely worth talking about. And a quick summary for you, so you don't have to listen to the whole episode if you don't want to. I really enjoyed it, and I do recommend it. Basically, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is a very ingenious, clever idea where it is Nicolas Cage playing a fictional version of himself. Nicolas Cage, essentially. Playing him in, I would assume, is him today, in today's times. He is well known, he's very famous, he's beloved for the old movies that he's appeared in, but as I mentioned before with the Redbox stuff, he's having trouble landing work, whether it's because he's a washed up actor. Obviously it's a fictional movie, so it's played more for the extreme mannerisms, the extreme result. His wife and child in this movie are obviously not the real life wife and child of Nicolas Cage. You get the idea. Basically, he's disenchanted with Hollywood, with the pursuit of acting. He can't connect with his daughter. He cannot connect with people around him. He's haunted by visions of a younger him who leans heavily into the over-the-top Nicolas Cage that is very present in modern-day media. just when he's considering, all right, I'm going to give up acting, that's it, he gets hired to attend the birthday party of a man called Harvey, played by Pedro Pascal, who lives in this wonderful villa mansion in the Greek islands somewhere. I don't know. It's paradise, essentially. So he goes there. Initially, he doesn't want to do it, but he finds out that Harvey is one of the most purest, nicest souls in the world and is a huge Nicolas Cage fan. He's loved all his movies. He cherishes the most everything Nicolas Cage possible. Con Air, National Treasure, Face Off, The Rock, hell, even The Wicker Man. It's all there. They form a wonderful, pure, happy friendship as he hangs out with him over the weekend. But then Nick is approached by Tiffany Haddish of the FBI, who informs him that supposedly Harvey is the leader of a sinister drug terrorist cartel empire and has kidnapped the daughter of a political opponent to use as leverage to swing the political vote. And they want Nic Cage, since he has gained the trust of Harvey and has essentially infiltrated the compound, to find a way to rescue this girl and bring Harvey down. Nicolas Cage is, of course, conflicted because he just wants to do the right thing, and the idea of a captured daughter reminds him of his own daughter, but also he loves Harvey, Harvey loves him, and he has to overcome that dilemma. And what follows is a comedy action film with everything you love about Nicolas Cage and buddy cops and more, and FBI infiltration, all that stuff, all the tropes, they're all in here. Now, this movie is a lot of fun, and it is case in point because it is Nicolas Cage. Of this concept of an actor playing a fictional version of himself, this movie could only have been made for and done by Nicolas Cage. You gotta love the man. Props to him, I think. Depending on your opinion of him, you may think that he is a Renaissance man who truly acts in a way that no one can understand, or you might think he's batshit insane. But all those different approaches, all those different opinions of him are all leaned to in this movie, and Nicolas Cage embraces every one of them, whether it's showcasing his actual really memorable work, such as The Rock, National Treasure, Face Off, Con Air, all of that stuff, or the memes, the not the bees from The Wicker Man, the screaming and shouting and wild eyes, and some would consider overacting. Every little aspect that makes Nicolas Cage a legend is embraced in this movie, and in a tongue-in-cheek way, in a point where I'm positive that Nicolas Cage is aware of how people see him, and either he doesn't care, but he is also able to laugh at himself. So it's a very clean, fun respect to Nicolas Cage as the actor, Nicolas Cage as the person, his attitude, his charisma, his intensity. None of it is done in a way to poke fun at him, in a way to laugh at him. It's a tribute to him. It is a respect for who he is as an individual and the mark that he has left on Hollywood, which is great. And he throws himself into it 110% in every aspect. The comedy side, the action side, where he needs to be emotional, where he needs to laugh at himself. It's all there. There's a really great moment where he sees a wax sculpture of himself, which looks terrible, and says only a madman would want that, and then offers to buy it because he wants it. That's funny, and it really sums up the whole approach and attitude to the movie. Plus, if you are a Nicolas Cage fan, you're going to really enjoy this movie, at the very least, just to remember either your favorite Nicolas Cage film or your favorite Nicolas Cage trope. The movie itself opens with a person watching the ending of Con Air with Trisha Yearwood's How Do I Live ballad that was playing in that movie. And that set me off on a high note, a very happy point that I did not come down from for the whole movie. It put me in the right zone to appreciate the film, to remember Nicolas Cage and his legacy and his reputation and his insanity, and really set up the film for just one wild ride after that. And the other high point for this film absolutely has to be the relationship, the chemistry between Nicolas Cage's Nic Cage and Pedro Pascal's Harvey. Now, obviously, Harvey's initially set up to be the bad guy, so if you've seen the trailer, if you're aware of what's going on, you know that, oh, this guy could be a really bad person. But there is a vulnerability that Pedro Pascal puts into the the character. There's a doubt to himself, there's a lack of confidence, and a love for Nicolas Cage. In a way, he represents how people feel about Nicolas Cage and his movies. But just watching the two of them bond together, either initially, where Nic Cage doesn't want to go to his party, and then when they slowly realize that they respect each other for who they are and their likes, and that Harvey is not some weird well, he's weird in a way, but he generally worships Nicolas Cage, and not in a creepy way, just in a beloved sort of way. And then you get to watch them talk about their favorite movies. You get to see them bond over Paddington 2 of all things, which is great. Then you see them working on ideas for their own scripts and their own movies, getting high on acid together. It's a wild ride from start to finish for them, and it is a wonderful relationship that is very pure and very believable. It doesn't feel forced. Like, we have to make it seem like these two people are friends so we can have drama in our film. It feels natural and it feels earned. Pedro Pascal is a funny guy as well. He's got great comedic timing, and he plays off Nicolas Cage well. It is the Nicolas Cage show. It is Nic Cage. It is the unbearable weight of Nicolas Cage's massive talent. So it is first and foremost his movie. But Pedro Pascal is not overshadowed by him. Nicolas Cage does not drown him out. This movie would not work if Pedro Pascal wasn't in it, and it wasn't Harvey's character and that relationship dynamic. If it was just a movie where Nicolas Cage struggles with who he is, it might be a completely different movie, and that might be okay. But in terms of this plot and this storyline, you needed that buddy dynamic that they have, and it's an absolute delight to watch. There's a few other people in the movie. They do their jobs well. Tiffany Haddish is pretty cool as the FBI agent. Sharon Hogan as Nicolas Cage's ex-wife. They all bring their own points to the roles, which, again, they're just there to support these two characters, and that's fine. I do want to say, though, Ike Barinholtz is in here as another FBI agent. I've seen him in a lot of movies now, and I don't understand why people think he's funny. And that's nothing against him. I don't know if he's a good or bad person or not, but his delivery, his comedic timing, the way he tells jokes, the way he reacts to things, it just doesn't make me laugh, even though I feel like it really is supposed to be. That's the design. No one in my theater was laughing at any of his jokes. So far, I've seen him in Suicide Squad. I've seen him in Neighbours and Neighbours 2. And he's just nothing to me, unfortunately. So there's a point where he disappears from the movie, and I didn't notice. And when I realized, I was okay with it. All in all, it is a fun time. There are a few downsides, though, which I do have to point out. Number one is the pacing. The movie does start to feel a bit all over the place by the end of the movie, as it's really leaning into the action side, the intensity of trying to rescue the kidnapped girl and for Nic Cage to get out alive and all of that stuff. And the transition from scene to scene, from development to development, from trying to infiltrate combat compounds to trying to escape, to gun shootouts, to revelations, it's very choppy and very all over the place, and it doesn't really let you take a moment to catch your breath or really to let you think about anything that's going on. There are people getting shot in rooms and people literally next to those rooms not hearing those gunshots, which doesn't make any sense. 1 minute people are angry at each other, but then they're forgiving each other, but then they're on the run together, but then they're coming back together. They're dressing up in makeup masks to try and infiltrate a compound just in the very next scene to be caught anyway. It's very all over the place, which I don't know if that's by design, but for me, I was having trouble. It sort of felt a little bit like a mini heart attack just trying to keep up with all that. Whereas it only stands out like that because it's such a small part of the film that's tacked on right at the end. Before, we spent so much time developing Nic Cage in this movie, his personality, where he is in the world, and then we spend so much time with him building his relationship with Harvey and them going on their escapades, that it suddenly feels like the movie went, oh, we don't actually want this to be a 2-hour movie, so we have to wrap this up as quick as possible, but we've still got 6 or 7 story beats we need to get through. But let's get through them as quickly as possible. That's just my personal gripe, though. I don't know if everyone else has experienced this. This movie's getting a lot of good reviews, and I haven't seen too much response on that. So maybe that's just me, but that's just... Obviously, this is my review. I'm going to tell you what I thought, clearly. And the other thing is that I just think they didn't take advantage of the Nicolas Cage idea, the idea of Nicolas Cage as a fictional version of himself, and embracing the wackiness of Nicolas Cage as much as they could have. As I did say though, only Nicolas Cage could have done this movie, and he does an excellent job. But there still feels like they've just fallen short of just how far they could go with this concept. The reason I saw this movie was because the trailer looked absolutely insane. It really promised a mad, action-packed, crazy romance drama thing for Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal, but leaning heavily into the fact of this movie is called The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Nicolas Cage is Nic Cage. When you think of Nicolas Cage, you think of Not the Bees. You think of that picture of him with those wide eyes just grinning malevolently. You see him dancing around in Face Off. You see him going on crazy escapades in National Treasure. And you see him with the mullet in Con Air. Nicolas Cage is a treasure of a human being, whether it's incredible acting ability, madness overacting, or cheesy memes. So you would think with the concept of this movie that they would lean into that as much as possible. But Nicolas Cage, for all intents and purposes, he's a washed up actor who's aware that he's a bit silly. But they don't really push that bar too far. And it's only really noticeable because they do push it in certain points a little bit. So you have an idea of where they could go with it, but they don't. The perfect way to sum it up is that in 3 isolated scenes, Nicolas Cage has a discussion with a younger version of himself. So Nicolas Cage is seeing an imaginary version of himself in his much younger days from one of his older movies. And that Nicolas Cage is the over-the-top, manic, insane Nicolas Cage that we've seen in the memes and the tropes and the overacting and all that. And they back and forth between the two, and he's screaming and yelling and flipping his hair. They're interesting, and that's the sort of thing I was expecting. I don't mind if they don't go in that direction, but to have it in the movie so minimally, and that concept of being haunted by your younger self, it doesn't come up nearly enough for it to feel like a genuine part of the movie. It's just, gotta have a scene with young Nicolas Cage. He says a few things. Doesn't really impact on what's going to happen in the rest of the film. It's just to go, we've got to have manic Nicolas Cage in the film. So I guess my point would be, it's a very, very clever idea, and it's a great movie, and I'm glad they did it. But I just think they could have gone just a little bit further in terms of really embracing the fact that they were doing a movie about a fictional Nicolas Cage with Nicolas Cage playing him. They could have gone so far. They could have gone batshit insane with that back and forth with the imaginary persona. And I think they shied away from it a little bit too much, which left you with just scenes in the movie which don't really impact with what is going on with everything else. But aside from that, it is a fun movie. It is a great showcase of Nicolas Cage as an actor, as a human being, as whatever you want him to be. Whatever your thoughts and opinions of Nicolas Cage, if you love the guy, you will like this movie. And it is respectful to him as well. It's not pointing and laughing at him. It's very tongue-in-cheek. Nicolas Cage is able to laugh at himself, but not in a malevolent way. And at the end of the day, even if you took Nicolas Cage, that concept of him playing a fictional version of himself, out of the movie, it's still a very solid buddy action adventure with some great comedy moments in it, lifted wholeheartedly by a great buddy relationship between Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal. Great stuff, gets an 8 out of 10 from me, and I highly recommend it. Don't go see Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. Don't go see Morbius. Don't go see anything else that I've said see just because there's nothing else to see, because this is out and it's worth seeing, as is the movie that I will review for you tomorrow. There you are. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed. I am off at this very moment to continue my day of marathoning Nicolas Cage movies. I have just rewatched Con Air and The Rock. I'm about to watch a double feature for National Treasure, and I'm going to cap the day off with Face Off. It's been great. Nicolas Cage, wonderful actor in whatever way you want to look at it. And The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is a great film that you should definitely check out. I will be back tomorrow to review a very different movie, one that is sticking with me in a very different way, The Northman. It's absolutely insane, and also probably one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. So I look forward to talking about that. So be sure to tune in tomorrow for that. Until then, I love and appreciate you all as always. It's been wonderful talking to you again, and I will catch you on the next Spliced In Later. Adios, muchachos. I'll catch you next time.